Good afternoon, and welcome to a special edition of the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and I've more or less... Okay, here's the deal. This particular video is going to be about the relatively big and somewhat widely covered announcement of DC announcing that Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, is gay in the new Earth 2 comic by James Robinson. So this is in response to, well, a number of coverage that this has gotten, and just to seems to be a good deal of the public in general. First of all, it's obviously a provocative issue. It's a provocative idea to make a a superhero that's been around since the 40s gay. And contrary to most people's understanding of the character, Alan Scott was the original Green Lantern, not Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was created in I think the late 50s to early 60s, and Alan Scott was created in 1940. So the fact that he's coming out as gay, it's my problem is not so much with the choice of character. I would have preferred it to be a teen superhero. A lot of people were talking about Tim Drake as a very good idea. I thought that was probably the way to go. But it does seem to be kind of a very kind of non-threatening, kind of antiseptic homosexual character. He's white, he's very wealthy, so on and so forth. But these things, that's really more of a personal opinion than it is a complaint about who they chose. I don't really, it doesn't bother me that they chose Alan Scott. In fact, I think it's kind of an interesting choice for the character, and I'm interested to see where they go with it. I'm also kind of mad they put it in a team book as opposed to a someone with their own title. Kind of be more it'd be more interesting to deal with. So basically, this is a message to the homophobes, the people who are saying that it's politically correct, saying DC is just doing this for marketing and everything like that, and to cause controversy. Well, I might sort of agree with the second part of that statement. That I think that this is it is a little bit. It seems a little bit forced. It doesn't seem very natural, in the sense that it doesn't feel organic for this character, but it's a reboot of the whole universe pretty much from the beginning anyway. And the fact that it's in an alternate universe doesn't make any difference to me. First of all, to all you homophobes out there, and all you trolls, yes, I'm a comic lover, I'm a comic reader, but I'm also 37 years old. I'm married to a woman. So all of you who, say I'm living in my mom's basement, or, that I'm a virgin, you can blow it out your ass. Okay? So, because I hear that shit a lot. Second of all, I I want you to look at the people in your own family and say to yourself, this is the most important thing, honestly, that I can think of to respond to these claims that it's disgusting, that it's inappropriate, that, all that kind of shit. Look at the people around you in your daily life. Look at the people that you care about and that you respect. What if one of them came out as gay? Or just one of them was gay? Do you honestly think that you would sit idly by and continue to run these people into the ground because they're gay? Or would you actually support them and say, you know what? This person that I care about, they're a human being. And what they're doing is making them, they're living their lives. They should be free of any sort of prejudice. So why are you being prejudiced towards them? Would you just stand there and say, yeah, I hate you now because you're gay, or you disgust me now because you're gay? Your brother, your best friend, your sister, your father, your mother, whoever. Why would it make that much of a difference to you? Homosexuality has been around longer than organized religion has. Okay, so don't give me any of that shit. Okay? Right now, we're in a war of cultures, a manufactured war, if you will, that's been that has been actually forced upon us by the media, by politics, by so-called family values. That it's just another thing that people keep screaming at us on the radio, on television. It's really doing its best to keep us apart rather than bringing us together. There's no in-between anymore. And that part of the conversation that's going on nationwide, at least here in the United States, is a really scary thing. It's a scary time to be alive, because I was thinking about this the other night. We have had almost every decade has had an enemy. Okay? Obviously, just going back to the 40s. Just go back to the 1940s. Obviously, we had, at the start of it, we had, the axis of evil. We had Germany, Italy, and Japan. And then, later on came the Russians, and the Russians were throughout the 50s and part of the 60s. And then the 60s, we got into Vietnam. So they were the enemy. The 50s, obviously, the Korean War. The 70s, not so much, but definitely still had, because the Vietnam War didn't end until 1975, so it was still very much the communists. The 80s, again, very much, we seem to be on the brink of nuclear annihilation and all that. And it wasn't until really the 90s that we had, like, kind of once the Berlin Wall fell, it seemed like we didn't have an enemy. And the 90s was actually a pretty good decade for humanity. And I know that there's some things that were fucked up along the way. And then, of course, once 2001 rolled along, then our new enemies were the Islamic extremists, terrorists, and we're constantly being scared of them, being told to be afraid of them. But now in the last 4 or 5 years, I have seen the enemy, and it is us. We're being driven apart by partisan rhetoric and, mass media outlets, or I should say, mass political entities disguising themselves as media outlets. And we've turned on each other. This is not the world I think that any of us really had in mind once we got to the 21st century. Gays are no more of a threat to you or your children than blacks were in the 1960s. It's an idea of civil rights. I know I'm getting off subject a little bit here, but I mean, this is the reality of it. We're at war with each other because we seem to strive on conflict. It's part of our DNA. I'm being told, as a liberal, I'm being told that I should be, I should be disgusted with conservatives because of everything that they're doing to keep, the liberal agenda at bay. Blocking access to health care, or blocking access to the same civil rights that any normal human being would be afforded, like the ability to get married. Gays are not the threat here. It's the people who keep on believing that homosexuality is a threat. These are the same people that pissed themselves when Miles Morales came out and and became the new Spider-Man in the Ultimate Spider-Man universe. So Alan Scott being gay is not going to affect your children. Okay, it's not going to force your young children to be asking, to talk to them about sexual orientation, because it's a teen plus book, Earth 2. So if you're letting your young children read a teen plus book, then I would look at yourself and how good of a job you're doing as a parent. So really, the best thing that I can say, the only thing that I can really say is this doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of humanity, this is not something that matters, that should matter. It's nobody's agenda that's being forced on you. If you don't feel like reading it, don't read it. But don't start campaigns to ban the book or to boycott the book like 1 Million Moms did. Look at how successful that was. I say, just look at yourself and look at the people around you, and get with the program. Get with this whole idea of that we should all try and love one another, because that's really the only thing that makes life worth living, unless you're living off of hate, in which case you're going to die alone and angry, and nobody's going to miss you when you're gone. Nobody's going to care. So that's my 2 cents on this. This is, again, mostly aimed at the homophobes, not so much the comic fans. Good for James Robinson, good for DC. Let's start seeing more gay characters in comics, because they're a part of our lives, whether you like it or not. That's it for the Shadow Gallery. I'm James Donnelly. We'll see you next time.